New poll out from Gallup on the issue of gay marriage, and man, is it telling. 2 in 3 Americans support gay marriage in 2018. Now, just take a look at that chart. In 1996, which really was not that long ago. It really wasn't. 1996 is not that long ago. 68% of the American people were against gay marriage. Only 27% were for it. And then you can see the trend there, and today we're almost at the exact same number. Now it's 67% support gay marriage, record high support gay marriage. Only 31% are against it. So what you see here is a trend in the correct direction, in the more open-minded, tolerant, common sense direction, where, apparently the argument has sunk in over time in people's minds, and it helps that in pop culture now, as time has gone by, you've seen more gay people and gay characters, and I think that helps people get used to the fact that it's a totally normal thing. But now people realize, well, hold on now. Why would we take away from people the same, tax rights under law and inheritance rights under law when it's a man who loves a man or a woman who loves a woman, simply by virtue of the fact that they like somebody, they love somebody of the same gender? It's just totally arbitrary and clearly immoral. So over time, that argument sunk in. But again, it was 68% against gay marriage in 1996. Now it's 67% in favor, and that's only going to trend even more in the right direction. So there are a few things to point out about this. Number one is, when it comes to the culture war, on the actual policies, the left has won in terms of popular opinion. Now, unfortunately, we don't always get that in terms of implemented policy. In the case of gay marriage, we did because of the Supreme Court. But, you name the social issue, and the American people are on the side of the left. Take marijuana legalization. It's about the same number for that now, too. About 67% for that now, too. Marijuana legalization. And again, the further you go back in time, the more people are against it, just like gay marriage. But as time goes on, people go, hey, you know what? It seems like a freedom issue to me. Why shouldn't you be able to put in your body whatever you want to put in your body if you're not hurting anybody else? And especially given the fact it's a relatively benign substance compared to some things that are already legal, like alcohol. So, that's one example. Another example, gun reform. Over 90% of Americans want a universal background check on gun purchases. Now, we haven't gotten it, but the American people are all on one side of that. And again, we can go on here and you name the issue. When it comes to abortion, the overwhelming majority of the American people want it legalized with some regulations, which is exactly what it's like right now in the United States. Euthanasia is even one where it's like a little over 50% that support it, but my guess is over time, it's going to be even more. Because again, it's a freedom issue. You're telling me if you have a terminal illness and you're in excruciating pain, you shouldn't be legally allowed to peacefully end your life with your loved ones surrounding you? So this is good news because it shows that over time, the good policies and the good ideas went out. It's true. Now, imagine how fast these polls would move if people were standing up and making these arguments strongly from the beginning. Because they often don't. Oftentimes, it's a slow, arduous process, and some people kind of just peek their head out and say, I guess I'm in favor of this, and then it takes more time, and then other people, and then it's a snowball effect, and then eventually, the zeitgeist in society moves in one direction. But, that's always what I've been in favor of. I've been in favor of just make the argument and stand up for what's right, and then when people hear that, they go, yes, I like that. Even if it's something that you wouldn't think people would agree with. They will if you just fucking make the argument. You just have to make the argument strongly. Like another one I would say is releasing all the nonviolent drug offenders from prison. Now, you might think that's radical, because that would be a lot of people released from prison. By some estimates, maybe 20, 30% of people just released from prison. But if somebody makes the argument, hey, non-violent drug offense, these are basically things that shouldn't be crimes to begin with. I mean, that's like if we locked up the CEO of Anheuser-Busch. That's like if we locked up a pharmaceutical company or a pharmacist because they sold Xanax. That non-violent drug offense. That's so stupid. What do you want to do? Go lock up the people working at the factory that makes Monster Energy? Because that's effectively what we did. So make the argument, and then people will agree with you, and then you can affect societal change. So on what I'm heartened by, though, is how big the swings are. Because what that tells me is even on issues where people might not already be with us yet, in due time, just make the arguments. Go out there. Don't be ashamed to make the arguments, and in due time, you'll win. I think another one is the death penalty. That's one of very few issues where the American public is with the right and not the left. But my whole thing on that has always been, it's been proven through various studies that about 4% of the time, we get the wrong people. So even with all the safeguards and everything, doesn't matter. 4% of the time, you'll kill the wrong people. So that means if you're in favor of the death penalty, you're in favor of state-sanctioned murder of innocent people. Now imagine if it was your son. Imagine if it was your daughter. Imagine if it was your dad who was on death row and they didn't do it. Then I think you'd have a slightly different feeling on the death penalty. Now that doesn't mean you can't take monsters and lock them in prison without the possibility of parole. I'm in favor of, for the worst criminals, lock them in prison, throw away the key, no possibility of parole. But if you believe in the death penalty, you believe in state-sanctioned murder. You believe in, hey, sometimes we get the wrong people, but I'm fine with killing the wrong people and doing murder sometimes. Okay, then you're a monster, because your tax money's paying for that. So you want to pay for killing innocent people. You're a hitman. That's what you are. So I think if we make that argument and we make it enough, people will go, you know what? I think that makes sense. I think you're right. And then we can win on that too. So I think the old Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. quote is correct. I'm gonna butcher it now because I just put too much pressure on it for remembering it at this very moment. But something like the arc of history is long, but it bends towards justice, or the moral arc of history is long, but it bends towards justice. I think that's true. And we're seeing that on many of the social issues. We won in terms of public opinion, but we didn't win in terms of policy, but I think that comes with time. And then even on economic issues, we've already won in terms of public opinion, but that's where we run into the real roadblocks, because that's where all the corporate money and big donor money is invested in making sure we don't get what people want. Have you ever stopped and thought about that? How, hey, it's weird on social issues, oftentimes we seem to get what we want and what the right, like desegregation, for example. With time, hey, we got segregation was ruled illegal. With time, gay marriage was ruled legal. So on social issues, it's almost like society throws us a bone so that on the economic issues, they can keep fucking us. We still have a minimum wage that's not a living wage. Unions are being decimated all across this country. The rich keep getting their taxes cut. Regular people keep getting their taxes raised. Jobs are outsourced nonstop. Our healthcare system and health insurance company is just absolutely abysmal and the worst in the modern world, according to every study. We pay more than other countries, get worse health outcomes. 45,000 people die every year from not having basic health care. At least 20 million people are uninsured. So on all the economic issues, people get screwed, but on social issues, a bone gets thrown our way every now and then. So it's almost like appeasing, and corporations often do this. Now there's not a single corporation that's against gay rights. Why? Because they want to be like, oh yeah, totally, we're down with the cause and we're totally on the, with the popular will of the people. See, we're fighting for gay rights, bro, totally. And they don't want you to look at the fact that they're also lobbying against raising the minimum wage behind the scenes. So the good news is people already agree with us, and where they don't, they will, once they hear the arguments. The bad news is you really run into a roadblock on economic issues. But this poll shows that there's hope. There's always hope. Because when you think, there's no way this will get done because it's so unpopular and I don't know if we're going to be able to get it. Well, take a look at the gay marriage poll. Take a look at what it said in 1996. Take a look at what it says now. Take a look at the law. And that should give you a little bit of hope moving forward.